Okay, well, welcome to another episode of Sidebar. I'm Hamish, I'm a civil litigator here at Nelligan's, and I'm joined today by Hannah Saunders, who is our wonderful marketing communications manager at Nelligan Law.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm usually not on this side of the camera, so it's pretty exciting. Yeah, we're going to talk, I think, a little bit about kind of design and branding from the marketing perspective, and then also the what you can do in terms of design and branding as an actual lawyer as well.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely. So we recently launched our nelliganlaw.ca redesign, refresh, and I'm in love with it.
Great, great.
I think I liked the old design, to be honest. I
Yeah.
thought it was still contemporary, but I really like what we've done.
Mhm.
And before going to law school, I had sort of vague aspirations. I thought maybe I should go into graphic design, and it's
Mhm.
something I always thought about going into.
Yeah.
So I'd like to ask you some questions about what went into this redesign specifically, and
Mhm.
then also in general, like when approaching design and branding for a law firm, what type of considerations are you looking into? So maybe we'll just start with, I think the most obvious big change is maybe the color palette.
Yes, yes. The color palette is major in terms of obviously like determining the brand, but it felt like a very big change as well. And we've been through over the years a number of color palette rebrands. I mean, the firm's been around since 1963. It was Nelligan Power, and then it was Nelligan and Brian Payne, and we were years and years ago we were yellow and navy, and then we were red and gray and black. And anyway, lots of iterations, but I think this color palette is very exciting. So for anyone who hasn't checked out our new website, it's basically a kind of charcoal, muted black, kind of an off-white cream color, and then raspberry pink, which is very exciting.
Hmm.
And it's funny because I remember when we were like presented with the different color palette options, and I first saw the different ones that we were deciding between. Seeing in a vacuum basically pink, black, and white, my first instinct was, oh god, that reminds me of 2004 millennial pink and black zebra
Right.
print, and I was like, no way,
A
that's
bit a
not
bit
a
emo goth maybe.
exactly. Yeah, it reminded me of like being in grade 7. So I was but it's interesting how like a color palette can seem completely different when you pair it with fonts and
Hmm.
images and spacing of things. So it was yeah, I think that's it was really exciting to land on pink because you don't see many law firms with
Hmm.
pink as an accent color. And it's used sparingly. It's not everywhere,
Hmm.
but
And also the contrast between the the charcoal and then what was the other,
like the cream,
the
like the
yeah,
off-white color. Yeah.
quite like stoic, professional, formal,
Hmm.
but then just the accent color.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really, I think it really captures, and also the change of the kind of the tagline. I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
it really goes well together. What's the new tagline? It's
Driven, proven, human.
yeah.
Yeah, slight update from fierce, proven, human. But still, I think it conveys, the same messaging. So basically, driven in our efforts. Um, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. Driven, proven, human. Driven in our efforts, proven in our track record or experience, and then human in our approach. So
Hmm.
that's kind of one of the through lines. But I probably should have had that memorized for this. But
So how did this all begin? Was once we decided that there was going to be a redesign, is color palette step one, or are there steps before that in terms of more kind of whiteboard,
mhm.
what are we trying to capture, or
Yeah, yeah, good question. So, we it's interesting because I said before, we had done a couple little tweaks to brands to our branding before, and this time we really wanted to start totally fresh.
hmm.
So rather than just tweaking one element of our past branding, we kind of said, let's start from the beginning. Let's take a step back. Let's reassess what we feel like as a firm in 2025. We did this last year. We started the process last year, I guess, and like don't think about what we've done before, and let's just like how do we feel about ourselves as a brand now and as a firm and as a culture. So what we engaged a really great agency who helped us with some of the kind of discovery part of this rebranding. So the first few steps were really them learning about us as a firm and our history, also learning about our clients and actually just how we help people and what kind of who we help, individuals and organizations and businesses. And then getting to know all the different practice groups, which is an interesting obstacle, I think, to branding a firm of our size and a
Right.
firm of our diversity, is because every practice group is so different. You're basically branding 10 mini businesses within one business, making sure that all of our messaging and colors and branding applies to everyone. So that was quite a task. So we did lots of discovery meetings, speaking with employees of the firm and partners, and just really understanding kind of the current state of Nelligan Law. So that was sort of the first step. And then we went through the different color palette options and logo options as well. So we made a slight tweak to our logo too, and lots of different mock-ups and visualizations, and then weighing all the pros and cons of making these switches and trying to think of a palette that really reflected the firm now, but also had a timeless aspect to it. I think that's another important thing too. Is this going to feel dated in 10 years, or can we just want to stick for a while?
I think yeah, I think sometimes when I don't know why I care about this, but the first thing I do when I'm dealing with any lawyer ever, I go straight to the law firm's website if it's not one I know, and just have a look at the website and see how it looks, even though it's like it doesn't actually say anything about the caliber of lawyer or how the case is going to go, but it's straight where I go. And sometimes you come across firm websites, and it's not that they're bad, but they're almost like you can tell exactly what year it was designed in.
Yes, yes. And I will say, I mean this with no offense at all, the law firm advertising and marketing is steeped in tradition, let's say. And so there's opportunity to stand out a little bit. But I think, it's because it's I feel like compared to other industries, the marketing and branding isn't the first thing top of mind necessarily for law firms. Obviously important. We're very busy people. So it's nice. I'm grateful to work here where we have that kind of the resources to really focus on branding and everything as well. But that's good to know that you look at other websites right away, because.
And then the headshots we had at the beginning of the year, and in a couple of different cycles, we've had headshots come in up on the floor above us where we had them all done, and the headshots are also a big tone shift. So I was wondering, and for nelliganlaw.ca, go have a look at the headshots. But they're very dark. Yeah. A very dark, subdued background. That really does work perfectly with the palette. But I was wondering, like, at what stage, because it's such a present part of the website, at what stage are you deciding on the headshot format? And because I'm sure that either opens or closes a lot of doors depending on what decision you make there.
For sure. Yeah. So we kind of had the mock-up outline skeleton of the website before getting new headshots. And basically we just did a bunch of research for local photographers whose style matched. We looked through portfolios and wanted to find someone whose style kind of matched what we were going for. And you'll see too on the new website, we don't have any more stock imagery. So in addition to the headshots, all the other photos on the website are our lawyers, our employees. And
the video content. It's like video, but it's background video that's ongoing.
Yes. I don't know the technical term for
I saw
that,
Jake had a heavy presence.
Yes.
Jonathan Constable, Jamie Reimer. I spotted Colin Dubow.
Lots of the litigation team. Got Tracy, John, Francis. Yeah. So I think that's another really nice change too, because it just literally puts faces to the name of a law firm, and it also shows our office, which is where many of our clients come to meet with us. So I think it's a great upgrade, so that clients can see, like, oh, these are the actual meeting rooms where I'm going to go meet with my lawyer. This is their real reception. These are the people who actually work here. So that was another photography aspect. But with headshots, headshots are definitely, because it's not just the website too, we do use them, some lawyers use them on their business cards as well. And then of course employees like to use them on LinkedIn too, so you kind of want to get a style that is versatile but not too limiting. And then there are all these little other factors too. Do you want to put them in a social media graphic that has more of the shoulder showing. You don't want it to be cut off in weird ways. You want the background to be easily removable. So
Right.
there are many factors that go
I've
into it.
I've always some firms go with the full length.
Yes. Yeah.
So that sounds strange, but just a photograph of someone from shoes up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've
Kind of
always
like a
found that
paper doll
I don't know why
situation.
I've always found that weird.
Yeah, I agree. I'm happy with our particular
And it
orientation.
makes it more difficult because I detest having my photograph taken, and um
Fair.
knowing that it's literally shoes up is just that's so alarming because now I'm thinking about I don't know how to stand to look
There,
like a good lawyer.
right. Where do you put your hands?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I think the less, yes, the more zoomed in, the better. I'm a fan of kind of shoulders up. I think that's a good
Hmm.
versatile, um, you know, range, and I think it helps take the pressure off too of
Hmm.
having to pose and everything like that. Yeah.
And then, well, first I'll ask you, what is your favorite individual aspect of the redesign, whether it's the font pairing or the color palette or because then the logo was tweaked subtly.
Yes. Yeah.
What is your favorite aspect that you're most proud of?
I think yeah, so the I'll mention to the logo. Another thing with rebranding too is we changed the color palette so much that we wanted to keep the logo as
Hmm.
a little bit more of a consistent through line, so it's not like what is this law firm? I've
Hmm.
never heard of these people before. But I think like I was saying before, I gotta say the pop of pink. It's
Hmm.
just I love it, and I find it's different. Like it makes us stand out, but our website still looks professional, in
Hmm.
my opinion, which is a really nice combination. Um, and I just find it conveys the firm has so much experience and it has so much like such a legacy in the city, but we are very progressive at the
Hmm.
same time. I think culturally and how we work and how we help our clients. And in my mind, the pink just kind of embodies that. It's just a bit different. It stands out. It's yeah, I just feel it kind of represents the energy of the firm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. And then I did touch on fonts.
fonts.
What fonts do we have deployed and what went into that? Because I feel like a lot is conveyed by a font.
Fonts are such a big topic.
Yeah.
And when I tell you opinions about fonts, oh my goodness, especially with lawyers, no offense at all, but lawyers are so passionate about fonts, which makes sense. There is a lot of it's a big part of their job. I totally get it. But in terms of marketing, our fonts. So we have another exciting update if you're into fonts is that the we have a serif font and a sans serif font, which
Mhm.
I think is a really nice combination because serif font, serif basically just means the embellishments at the end of letters,
All
so that
tails and flourishes.
exactly. So those fonts are more traditional, a bit more academic looking. And then you have a sans serif font, which are usually a bit more modern. And
Mhm.
so if you see on our website, some of the headings are the specific font is Sticks 2, if anyone's interested.
Okay.
It's a Google font, yeah. And that is our serif font. So that has a little bit more of the, I think it conveys, a bit more of the kind of history and the actual, academic side of the legal industry and the work we do. And then our sans serif font is Inter, which is a nice, modern, clean font. And it's nice having that variety. You can kind of use both, and I think they represent our energy as a firm well. And then just
Mhm.
in terms of practicality, if we're making maybe like a client handout or a graphic or
Right.
something, and you can kind of have options to choose from. Yeah. So that's what we went with, but I think people can talk about fonts for a long time. It is
Now, I guess we should actually talk about letterhead because that is an interesting, well, maybe that's overblowing interesting
relatively
thing, but
interesting.
letterhead is exactly where I think branding
Yes,
starts to rub up to lawyers wanting their documents to look how they want them to look.
this is
Like
true.
letterhead is where the rubber meets the road. So
Very true. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It is. It's yes, it is a collaboration for sure. Let's say that. But it's that's interesting because it's kind of, you want when you're sending a letter as a lawyer, that's basically official communication from a firm is pretty
hmm.
when you would send a letter, right? It's like you're representing a client, so
Hmm.
you're sending a letter to the other side,
Sometimes to the court.
sometimes the court, sometimes yeah. So it's you want that as well to be of course, feel modern and represent the firm, but you also want it to convey the authority of a
It needs
respected
to be
law firm.
serious.
Yeah, exactly. It's serious business. So, but then at the same time, you want it to be accessible and not too intimidating for clients as well.
Right.
That's a big part of our branding too. Is making sure that everything we create and is as accessible in plain language as possible
Right.
for clients, because that's a huge part
Yeah,
of
and
it
the
for us.
font goes into that for
Yeah.
sure. In terms of almost just an intimidation factor, it's some letterhead can look,
Yeah.
especially, scary, intimidating,
Mhm.
and once the letterhead is chosen, I think that's the interesting part of it. Judges probably aren't looking at a website very often,
Mhm.
but letterhead goes to everyone from
Mhm.
judge, opposing lawyer, client.
Right.
Three entirely different audiences.
Quite different target audiences. Yes. Yeah. 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 Definitely. And and there are so many. It's the kind of thing where you think it's simple because it's a relatively simple, as in there's just you put your contact information in your logo essentially. But when we actually got down into the weeds of it, there's so many little mini, or like so many small decisions to make. Spacing, do we put an icon on the bottom? Do we align everything left, justify? Do we center it? Do we what's the size of the font? Okay, we're gonna flip things around now, and I'm gonna talk to you about, if there's room for being creative and having design preferences and being a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
um, I believe there are, in terms of legal documents, there are rules with fonts, I think, for accessibility, so, and legibility, size and types of fonts.
Yeah, so let me caveat this by saying the job is not about making your documents look pretty. But a lot of lawyers are very detail oriented, and there's still an element of that somewhere, and design and creativity goes into that. I think that while the words are the thing that matter and how the information's conveyed, I just think that, as we're reading or viewing anything, we can't turn off that aesthetic part of our brain
Yeah.
that sees something, and good design should be, it should evoke an emotion, it should be legible, it should not be difficult to read.
Yeah.
So the rules of civil procedure outline a couple of, it's not super prescriptive, but they have there are a couple of things they say about how documents should be formatted. And I went and swatted up on this and went back to the rules and had a look, and what do they actually say? And it's kind of bizarre because all these rules were drafted back when everything was in paper, and the
Right.
rules have been updated on what we'd say like important procedural and substantive changes to the rules that affect how you practice law. Last on the agenda is, should we update what the documents look like?
Yes.
So the rules are mostly, like, even though we're in largely a virtual electronic world when it comes to documents, they mostly clearly written around the idea that this is a paper document. So
Right.
it basically just says the text should be legible, double space between lines, margin of 40 millimeters, which is it's an insanely it's an insane margin on the left hand side.
Is that a larger than average margin or smaller?
Yeah, because large, like average would be, I don't know, like an inch margins on all around.
I don't have my margins memorized, so I don't know.
It would be.
Standards.
I feel like if you open up a Word document, it's going to put you at like an inch or something like that. So, it's like, yeah, 40 millimeters is basically, coming up on double that.
Yeah,
so
right.
super wide only on one side, and I believe I could be wrong on this. I believe it's because when you're binding like documents, you need to have enough buffer
space for the rings, or
right.
Okay.
So I think it's to do with that, and then also certain documents get stamped by the court, and that always goes left top.
Okay.
And I think it's to give some buffer and some space around that.
Okay, that checks out.
But then when everything ends up being electronic, it just kind of is very strange and overly spaced out and space inefficient, especially when everything's double spaced.
Yes, and a big margin.
A huge margin.
That's why
You
legal
really
documents are so long.
yeah. So
Figured it out.
and then the fonts aren't actually specified.
Yeah. Which I find interesting because I feel like my assumption was Times New Roman was it. But
so the fonts aren't specified. This is also a weird thing. The size of the font is specified, but it's specified in, from what my research looks like, kind of an archaic way to size fonts, which is based on pitch.
What?
Yeah,
does that mean?
12 or 10 pitch size. 12 point or 10 pitch.
I've never
I don't
heard
know.
of a pitch.
I don't know
of a
what
font.
a pitch is. But 12 point.
Okay.
Now, what fonts are actually used by lawyers, at least in the documents I just tend to see, I'd say, the vast majority of legal pleadings are in Arial or Times New Roman, because that's like the most common, plain. Arial, I think, is probably more legible. Times New Roman looks a bit more like you're being a serious lawyer.
Yes.
Other ones you see around, you see some kind of the standard Microsoft Office basic ones that have been here for decades, like Georgia, sometimes Calibri. You will sometimes see century or 20th century monotype. I feel like if I get a pleading,
those are risky,
if I get a pleading and I'm seeing those fonts, I'm like, I'm almost like this lawyer's out there. I don't know what, I'm there. I don't know. They're just a bit a bit quirky.
That's a wild thing to do, is to use 20th century monotype.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And then whenever you get a transcript, so if there's evidence given in court, if there's like a trial or a witness is testifying and the court reporter types everything down, they're not using a typewriter, but they're always in Courier. Which Courier is, if you're listening or if you don't know what Courier is, I can't describe it any other way. It's the typewriter font.
Well, that's interesting, because when you download a transcript from a video, even if you're doing like video editing, it always spits out in Courier. So it's just kind of the universal factual.
I'm being factual.
Yeah, I'm quoting someone. Yeah, this is exactly what happened. Interesting. Okay.
And then I looked into the US, because some of the rules in the US are pretty prescriptive.
Yeah.
So apparently the Supreme Court in the US requires specifically Century Schoolbook.
Oh.
They're very specific with their fonts. And then apparently Florida's appellate courts require Arial or Bookman Old Style at 14-point font, which seems aggressive to me.
Huge.
You're shouting at me. Quiet down, please.
Huge. That's a header size. Wow. Okay. Fascinating. Wow. Okay. Well, I learned a lot about legal fonts. Okay, that's very interesting. And now another question I have for you is, you talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but how different is it when you kind of present yourself in virtual court versus real court? And are there any leftover pandemic changes that maybe added flexibility around presentation or that kind of thing that have stayed past the pandemic? Because I know that was the case with a few other standards.
Well, first I would just say virtual court is still real court.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
So in an actual courtroom, I mean, it's a formal setting, and you're specifically, I could be wrong on this, but what I've always been led to believe, and what I understand to be the case, is that lawyers wear robes in court to kind of actually level the playing field and make sure that someone's appearance is kind of not playing a role in any of this.
Like a uniform, basically.
Like school uniform. So the idea is that instead of someone showing up in a worn out old suit and then the lawyer on the other side in a Hugo Boss suit,
right,
you don't want that decision making or the jury, if it's a jury trial, to be influenced by that. Everyone's in robes. It neutralizes that, and there's also just a history and a tradition behind it too. Now, I'd say, and some of the rules around robes are kind of specific And I can't even say what the source of this information is,
Mm.
other than I've definitely been told multiple times, like if you wear brown shoes in court, like you could really anger a judge.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Okay,
Um,
fascinating. I need to know more about these unwritten
yeah.
rules of court appearance attire.
Now, no one can wear your shoes when no one can see your shoes when you're on Zoom.
Oh, there
So,
you go. There you go.
so,
Which is still real court.
so that
Yeah.
that's one change. But no, I'd say that the change is when you're presenting in court via Zoom,
Hmm.
I at least see that there is some subtle advocacy to be done
Hmm.
in terms of how you present yourself as a whole. And what that means is, are you using a grainy laptop microphone or are you audible?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, are you, and the sound quality, it's all filtered through Zoom, so it's
Hmm.
never going to be exceptional. But whether you're using a microphone or not, I think matters.
Hmm.
And then, um, are you going for the chopper pilot look and having the over
The big,
the
yep, yep.
earmuffs with the boom microphone? Personally, I don't.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough.
But and all this stuff, it might seem silly, other than I kind of just firmly believe that when when you're seeing someone in court and they're
Hmm.
presenting to you, you just inevitably, it's only human to take in the whole thing you're seeing.
Yeah. Hmm.
And that includes um, you know, the quality of the webcam you're using and
Yeah.
how well lit you are as you're presenting.
Hmm.
And lawyers, I don't think any lawyers at a trial advocacy thing would have any issues with saying, you should speak slowly, clearly, you should make good eye contact.
Yeah, kind of presentation basics,
Yeah.
even. Yeah.
And so all of that should also matter when it
Hmm.
comes to how you present yourself through a camera.
Hmm.
And so personally, I think a ring light is a necessity
Yeah.
because there's nothing, I'm just going to say, more odd than when you're in motions court or something and you can
Hmm.
kind of see a lawyer who's like sort of dimly lit
Just
in just
emerging from
emerging
the
from
darkness. Yes,
yeah.
yeah, that is not a good look. And yeah, and I feel like ring lights have this kind of social media
Hmm.
stigma, but they're really effective. They're so inexpensive and
Yeah.
they make a huge difference in the quality. And I would imagine too, as someone presenting, those small changes just probably make you feel more confident as well. If you see yourself in Zoom and then you can see your well lit background, you're probably going to, I would imagine, it would maybe help you kind of with your confidence and your, um, getting your point across too. And you'll
Yeah.
feel good about how your background looks. And
I think it just goes into, if you feel like you're professional and you look
mhm.
professional, you look serious. I think it eliminates those things that can detract from your
Yeah.
message and detract from your submission.
Hmm.
And I'm never going to suggest that cases are won or lost based on that.
No.
But the level of effort to make sure that you don't have random loose papers jumbled all over the backdrop of
Yeah.
your Zoom call, I think it just shows a level of effort that you just care about the details. And if you care about the details in terms of whether or not you have client files
Hmm.
bursting at the seams in your backdrop and you're barely audible and your camera's at a crazy angle,
Yeah.
if you care about those details, then I think it gives you some credibility that you care about the details in the argument you're making.
Hmm.
Um,
Definitely. And yeah. And they're relatively easy fixes too. Like small
mhm.
changes can really add up. Definitely. Yeah. And, um, I just as a slight side note, whenever I see our lawyers walking down the halls in their robes, they look so cool. They look so, I'm like, you are ready to go to court. It's awesome. Um, okay, next I want to ask you about. I feel like we often, when we watch like legal shows and movies, you see your classic Exhibit A, and someone has a Bristol board and they have their diagram of proving their point in court. Is that a real thing? Are you allowed to bring visual aids to court, and are there limits to what you can bring or show, or how much
Yeah,
flourish can you add?
so you can, and I think they're probably better served in jury trials. They're sometimes called demonstrative evidence, sometimes called demonstrative aid,
Okay.
and it's maybe a bit controversial as to whether or not it's evidence or an aid.
Hmm.
Um, um, and what there is a test, like it has to accurately represent what you're suggesting it does represent.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also an element of helpfulness. You need to have something that's actually, this isn't part of the legal test, but just like you're not trying to win your case based on like how good your visual aids are.
Right.
But sometimes, especially with a jury, it is
Mm-hmm.
one of those things where it's a very document heavy profession, and sometimes you need to show the map.
Yeah, yeah. That makes
You
sense.
need to show the diagram, especially in my line of work when we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about bodily injury.
Right.
It's just as long as something can represent what the injury is,
Mm-hmm.
it can be. John Lundrigan has. I can't remember what he named it. He's gonna kill me for that. But he has the skeleton.
That's right. He
Um,
has a skeleton, full
yep,
size skeleton diagram.
model.
Model.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the word.
anatomical
Yeah.
skeleton,
Yes.
and I've seen him, and also Sam, the former physician in our office, he's walked me through different joints and how they function and how they should move,
Mm-hmm.
and so that would be a demonstrative aid, a model.
Mm-hmm.
It can, but it can also be maps, diagrams, animations,
Mm.
which comes up in situations where we've hired an accident reconstructionist.
Right.
Sometimes just the report misses something that is better conveyed through an animation.
Mm.
And then also some of the more lawyer prepared, because some of these things are, we would bring them in as a demonstrative aid or a
Mm-hmm.
demonstrative evidence. We wouldn't necessarily author them. It would be based on our expert, like a
Okay.
physician would commission them, or an engineer would have them commissioned to do the animation as part of a
I
report.
see.
But charts, summaries,
Mm-hmm.
chronologies are
Mm.
the type of thing that might be more a lawyer would develop those.
I see, like a visual timeline of
Yeah.
series of events kind of thing.
And I'd say sort of there aren't super specific rules around them. It's not that prescriptive,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the time, I think lawyers default to just, well, you know what? It should kind of look like a court document. It should just be a chart with just lines of text.
Right.
And I'd say that, especially dealing with a jury, but I'd say with anyone,
Mm-hmm.
it's just not a good way to convey
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, take advantage
Um,
of the tools you have, and
right.
it's like, of course, a big part, especially as a litigator, is the storytelling of
Hmm.
something. You're telling the story of your client's experience, and you're um, conveying that. And when you switch up the mediums within reason, of course, I feel like that's
Hmm.
probably more effective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a super interesting talk
Yeah.
about all things design.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's fascinating. Yeah, we probably could throw it about fonts, but it's fine. It's
Okay.
fine.
Well, thanks for joining us on our episode of Sidebar, and
Mm,
you can check out our team and our new website at nelliganlaw.ca.
yeah.